Hello. Sustainability as survival, solutions in circular economy. So sustainability is a word that is overused and has been used for a long time. We're basically eating our planet. We're eating our finite resources. And in cities such as Milan, there's people starving to death and dying of starvation, and there's of malnutrition as well, and people who are also dying of obesity or being overweight, and they're still malnutritioned. These are the planetary boundaries. It was by Dr. Johan Rockström of the Stockholm Resilience Institute. He did a lot of research and studies, and these are 9 planetary boundaries. And as you can see, the safe operating space, or the green zone, is in the middle. But we're pushing on 5 in the red zone. And so there is something that I'm going to talk about a little bit further into the talk, but sustainability is no longer the buzzword. That's no longer what we need to reach. We need to reach resilience, because once we start going beyond the limits of growth and going beyond these borders, the complete system of our planet is going to collapse, and we need to have some resilience in place, which has sustainability embedded into it to protect us so that we can have food in the future, so that we can have water in the future, so that we can survive and live a long, happy, desirable future. Something that's nice, not in spacesuits and oxygen masks or with gray clouds. We want to live in a place that's beautiful and abundant and nice. So we need to globally reform food. And I like the word fresh. Food reform that is sustainable and healthy. Because the agriculture, food, and beverage industry is the #1 leading major cause of climate change and human suffering. And it is in time to bring this entire industry that's kind of been stuck for 12,000 years into a new age of resilient sustainability. So if you're driving down the freeway in the wrong direction, and you slow down or reduce your speed, what happens? You're just going slower in the wrong direction, right? So if some corporation says we're going to reduce our carbon emissions by 20% or 40%, what are they telling you? They're telling you that they're still going in the wrong direction, just slower. They're telling you that they're stabbing you with a slow knife, or stabbing you slowly, or shooting you with a slow bullet. It's still a problem. It's not a solution. We must stop and reverse our direction. So the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, hoping for different results. We need a paradigm shift. We need a resilient, sustainable future. So let's head in the right direction. Einstein said it best. He said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking that we used when we created them." Here is another thing we want to kind of shift into systems thinking. Our planet has 5 systems: atmosphere, hydrosphere, geosphere, cryosphere, and biosphere. These are all systems that work together in harmony. All of them work in harmony. There's not one of these systems that controls the other 4 systems. But if one of them breaks down, like the first slide I showed you, all these other systems compensate and could fail. They try to compensate and make up for the rest of the systems. So as humanity, we need to get into this mode of thinking in systems, how our world works, the systems view of life. Our body is made up of 11 systems, and they all work in harmony. But there's not one of these systems that you can see that controls the other systems, right? So when somebody comes to you and says, Mark, will you talk about sustainability on stage for 10 minutes and tell us how to solve the world's problems or how to be sustainable? They're not understanding the complexity of systems of our world. It's very complex, and we need to embrace this complexity in these systems thinking or view of the world, because not only is our planet made up of systems, but our body and everything around us. And that's the solution of how we need to think and how to fix the problem. Get out of this siloed approach or view of the world and this linear and lateral view of the world, and embrace complexity and dynamic models. And so if one of these systems of our body fails or breaks down, the rest try to compensate. We either die, we get sick, we get disabilitated until we recover, or it's a bad outcome. Now, Galileo, we're in Italy, so Galileo said, we cannot teach people anything. We can only help them to discover it within themselves. And that's very important to know, because the information I'm giving you is not really new. It's been around for a long time, but I need to tell you and spark something inside of you to interest you to find the answer within yourself, because these systems are not only in our world, they're in you. You already have the answer. You just need to realize it. So there was a book published in 1972 by the Club of Rome and the Volkswagen Stiftung. And it's a wonderful book, but it's kind of like the Bible of climate change. But it also is the Bible of systems thinking and dynamic modeling. And this is a free download for you, so take a picture of it. And I'll give this free to you in EPUB, Kindle, PDF, and Nook. But it gets you to understand the systems view of our world and how we can solve some of these problems. This was what was involved with this book. The MIT researchers who wrote this book did this World 3 model. They did a model of the world based on the resources of our planet and the carbon emissions of our planet and the population growth of our planet, how we're continuing on and how we can be sustainable and what we need to do. And after 10 years after this report was published, they published another book, the next edition of it, and they called it Beyond the Limits to Growth, because we had already went beyond the limits to growth and went beyond our finite resources. And last year we had Overshoot Day on August 2nd, meaning we'd overshot the resources on our planet. This is a model that I'm going to show you that they ran out, that I just showed you before kind of visually, where you take and run the different variabilities of this dynamic systems thinking model of our world, and you can change the scenarios. You can play with different facts and figures or inputs, and every scenario that they ran with the World Model 3 and the systems thing came up with horrible information and results for the future, which we're now experiencing in our world. This is a systems thinking dynamic model of a fishing model. And I don't want to belabor the point, but I want to get you into visualizing and thinking in systems. Here's a model of the food system, different aspects of it, and how it's kind of very unique and dynamic. Here's the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and tied to food and how they're done in systems. And this year in January at Davos at the World Economic Forum, they released transformational maps, or transformational maps, which are systems tying different aspects or markets together in systems thinking, the systems view of the world. And so if you click on zero hunger or different aspects of the SDGs, you can see how they're all interactive and tied together. You can see their interactions with another and see the facts and figures. And so I just kind of want to show you this, but this is the transformational maps from the World Economic Forum. So I click on social innovation, and you see all the other markets and aspects, how they're tied together. Our world is making a shift from this siloed approach, this linear and lateral thinking, to a systems view of life. And so I want you to get into this modus of how this is how we solve problems. There are some free places on the internet. You can take a photo of this where you can learn how to put in, whether it's your food system, your business, whether it's your personal life, where you can model that out in a systems thought process into a dynamic model for your business or your personal life to see how that plays out in different scenarios. And we're on this journey, this exponential growth journey of life. It's called an adaptive lifestyle of health and sustainability. It's this S curve that we go through, and right now we're in the global era of sustainability, the fourth industrial revolution. This is a life cycle curve where we go through the beginning, growth, death as a timeline, and at a certain point we either fail and drop off and reinvent ourselves, or we move to the next step, whether it's business, life. For humans in our work life cycle, it's about every 6 to 8 months. We need a raise, we need a new project, we need something more, or we get stagnant and we get upset with our work. It's also called the Gaussian curve or the nominal curve, the bell curve. And there's innovators, early adopters, and then there's this gap or chasm. And I think Google Glasses fell into this gap or chasm and they'll never recover. But other innovations or products like the iPhone have continued across that and kept innovating. Here's the hero's work-life cycle journey, which is important to know about early adapters and this process that we go through in life. The United Nations SDG goals, all businesses have basically said that they don't understand why they are, or don't adopt them. They're not doing anything on that. And these sustainable development goals are very important because they give us a desirable future or a manifesto for our future by 2030. And let me just read this to you real quick. Imagine a world where there is no poverty and zero hunger. We have good health and well-being, quality education, and full gender equality. Everywhere there is clean water and sanitation for everyone. Affordable and clean energy has helped to create decent work and economic growth. Our prosperity is fueled by investment, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, and that has helped us to reduce inequalities. We live in sustainable cities and communities, and responsible consumption and production is healing our planet. Climate action has capped the warming of the planet, and we have flourishing life below water and abundant, diverse life on land. We enjoy peace and justice through strong institutions and have built long-term partnership for the goals. So this is almost utopian view of a desirable future that we want to live in, one that's abundant, that's fixed, that has equality. And this is the basis of the UN SDG goals, which we will reach by 2030. If we don't reach them, we're going to have a very hot and climate crisis planet that's not going to be very desirable to live in. One quick example. One day, Hurricane Marina wiped out Puerto Rico's entire agriculture and infrastructure. In one day. How long will it take them to recover? Minimum 4 to 6 years. It doesn't happen in the very next day that they recover. And that's why I begin with resilience and sustainability. If they don't have a resilient systems view of the world, a dynamic model that prepares them for unknown climate catastrophes, in one day climate change can wipe out their entire infrastructure. And what happens then is people die. People have to go to other countries. They become climate refugees. They become in need or dependent on other places in the world in order to feed them, to give them energy, shelter, and the basics of human needs. This is how we see the SDG goals. I think it's fabulous, but it kind of throws us off a little bit because we see them as linear or lateral goals, all laid out in a row, 1 to 17. When I tell people I'm an SDG advocate, they say, oh, I like number 1, no poverty. It's red's my favorite color. And I say, That's great, but you actually need to love them all, because this is a planet protection plan. And it's not really this way we should view them, but this way. This is the proper way to view the United Nations SDG goals. And the reason why is because all 17 are tied intrinsically to food, and 11 of them intensively. We need to see this like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The basis of all SDG goals are tied to food, to the basic needs of our human needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs at the very bottom: breathing, food, water, sex, sleep, homeostasis, and excretion. Breathing, food, water. That's how we get our nutrition. That's how we heal ourselves. That's how we grow and get our power. That's the basic of needs. So why are we paying farmers so little? Why are we not empowering women and girls? Why are we not globally reforming food? Why have we placed our need, our basic need, food, water, drink, in the hands of 10 big companies to provide us our food? That's not very sustainable. That's not a sustainable business model. It's not a sustainable personal model or a planet protection plan. And so I want to leave you with a vision of sustainability, but I want to leave you with more than that, and a vision of resilience that you build into your life, an independence and a resilience to get off the dependence of big corporations, to get off of the independence of broken systems, and using your company's business models and in your own personal life, this systems view of life. And I'm showing you a little video here of what I hope you can imagine our desirable future will be like in the future.